Hi, and thanks for joining. If you're new here, I'm Wendy and this is Nina's Jewels. My husband and I buy things at garage sales, flea markets, thrift stores, just about anywhere we can find things to sell online and flip for a profit. If that's content you're interested in, you're in the right place. Today's video is going to be what sold for May 14th through 20th. Let's get started. The first thing we sold was a Food Network magazine from October 2021. We got this from someone who was giving away a bunch of free magazines on Nextdoor, and most of them we sold in lots. This one was the only Food Network magazine that we had, so we sold it individually. It sold for an offer to buyer of $7.48. Honestly, there was not a lot of profit in this. I think we only made like 50 cents, but we were glad to see it go and glad to have the 50 cents on an item that we did not pay for. With magazines, you cannot send them through media mail. A lot of people think that you can, but you actually cannot. And the reason why is because they have advertisements inside of them. So we always have to send these through first class mail, and first class mail is getting kind of expensive. So that cuts into your profits a lot. $7.48 was really cutting it close on this. We probably should not have sent out an offer that low, but we were just trying to kind of grease the wheels on getting some things to move. And sometimes if you send out low offers, that will grease the wheels of eBay, I've found. And so actually it did in this case. We had a really, really good week this week. Next up was a lot of 2 LiftMaster and Chamberlain 3-button garage door openers. We picked these up in a big box of all kinds of different like car accessories that were at an estate sale. I think we paid $15 in total for the box, and we've sold a lot of stuff out of that box. We have completely made our money back. We're well into the profit on that. We had originally thought we were going to keep these for ourselves, but they weren't compatible with our garage door. So we decided ultimately to sell them, and they sold for $14.98 on offer to buyer. They sold really fast. I think this might be the second time we've sold replacement OEM garage door openers, and they also sold fast. So if you ever see those anywhere and can get them at the right price, probably worth picking up. We did get positive feedback on these. Next up was a lot of 21 replacement pieces for the 1970 Parker Brothers game, Smess the Ninnies Chess Game. I saw these, they were in a Ziploc bag at a garage sale. I had no idea what they were. The bag was marked $1. They just looked vintage to me. They didn't have any markings on them. It's not something I had ever seen. I just thought that, wow, those look interesting. I'm going to pick them up because they appear to be vintage, but I didn't even know for sure that they were. It was a really good pickup. If you ever see any parts or pieces from this game, it is a rare, hard to find game. The game itself sells for quite a bit. Parts and pieces sell from it for quite a bit, and they sell quickly because they're hard to come by. So this is definitely a Bolo. These I had paid $1 for all of them, and they sold very quickly for $29.99, which was our full asking price. We got positive feedback. Next up was a vintage 1950s Gund 14-inch plush mouse. It had a plastic tail and velvet paws and ears. It was supposed to have a vest with it, but that was missing. We found this in the Goodwill bins. We paid $1.18 for it, and it sold for $24.99, which was our full asking price. Next up was a really pretty Lane Bryant light blue floral fit and flare sundress. We got this at a garage sale for $1, and it sold for $26.18 on offer to buyer. We had a lot of interest in this dress, but it did have a really faint little spot on it, which we disclosed, and that made it not sell as quickly as I think it would have otherwise, and we also got a little bit less on it than we would have if it had been in pristine condition. Next up was a 35-inch Yamaha soundbar. We had the cord and the remote. We tested it, and it worked. This we got out of the B-Stock liquidation pallet that we purchased for $3,500. We do have a video on that if you want to check it out. It is one of our older videos, so we were definitely really green when we recorded that video, but it does have a lot of good information, and it's just, we were not very good at recording videos when we did that. But we had broken down our cost per listing from that pallet at $47.18, so that's what we said we paid for this item. It only sold for $78.38, which is not great. Honestly, that pallet was just kind of a bad buy. You'll see in our video that we disclosed all of that. Not something that we would do again, at least not the electronics palette. I think that was definitely part of our bad decision making with buying a pallet was buying an electronics pallet that was returns. Anyway, this went bad in so many ways. Not only did we not make much from the get-go on this item, but the buyer claimed that it didn't work and returned it. And we offer free returns, so that, we just basically paid them to buy our item and return it back to us. But according to all of our testing, the item worked, so I don't know if they were confused or if they were dishonest, but the item worked. We have decided that we're not going to resell this item because we are just not making any money on it. We're just going to end up donating this. We have made a little bit of profit back in total on that liquidation pallet purchase. So we're just, anytime something like this happens regarding that liquidation pallet, we're like washing our hands of it. We just want to be done with it. We have a few more items to sell. Mostly they are turntables, and we're just trying to get rid of them at this point. Next up was a pair of limited women's chino walking shorts. We got these out of a storage auction. We paid only 24 cents for those, and they sold for $16 even on best offer. Next up was a really good purchase, something my husband found in a thrift store. He paid $3.47 for it. It was called an expanded coyote runt closure kit, 3-cable port. And so I guess I would describe it as like some kind of waterproof junction box for cables. It was new. It had never been installed or used or anything, but it was like an open box type product. These sell for quite a lot new. We sold it very, very quickly for $150 on best offer. I don't remember what they sell for originally, like brand new in the box, but it was well over $200. So we may have been able to get more for it, but the fact that we only paid $3.47 for it and it sold so quickly, we were absolutely thrilled with that. I think the chances of us ever finding an item like this again are probably going to be rare, but we would definitely pick it up if we saw it again. Next up was a Cacique Lane Bryant black and nude lace lightly lined balconette bra. We got this at a garage sale. We paid $1 and it sold for $17.58 really quickly on offer to buyer. Next up was a Bible. This one was a King James version. It was from 2008 and the publisher was Hendrickson. We had gotten this at a thrift store for $1.35 and it sold very quickly for our full asking price of $8.99. Next up was a vintage Pyrex Corning. It was a 3-inch refrigerator magnet that had measurement conversions on it. We got this at a garage sale for 50 cents and it sold really quickly for $14.99, which was our full asking price, and we got positive feedback on that. Next up was an Ann Taylor black crochet front layered camisole or tank top. We got this from a family member who gifted it to us to sell, so we had no cost, and it sold for $14.50 on best offer. We did get positive feedback on that item as well. Next up was an item from the Via Trading box. If you have not seen our Via Trading video, I will link that in the description box below. Do go check that out. We got a lot of great swimsuits from that box, and if you want to go check out Via Trading, probably worth it. They do have a lot of really good offerings for resellers. This one was a Bukota women's plus size 4XL mermaid swim dress or tankini. It was a really cute swimsuit. We had sold this one on best offer for $29.58, and we got positive feedback on that. We do have another one exactly like this that has a lot of watchers, so I think that one's going to sell soon. Next up was a really good sale. This came from that box of tracks and vehicles that we got at a garage sale. And these next two items sold to the same buyer for a total price of $99.98. That was our full asking price. They purchased the 2008 Mattel Hot Wheels 3-lane super speedway. They purchased 2 different listings from that set. The first thing they purchased was 2 pieces of the curved end racetracks. We had those listed together for $49.99. And then they also purchased the launcher part, which was the battery operated part that launched the cars. They purchased that part for $49.99, and in total they paid $99.98. and we had paid just 50 cents total for all of that from that garage sale. So that was a really good buy. We're definitely going to be on the lookout for any parts and pieces from this 3-lane super speedway racetrack from Hot Wheels in the future. Next up was a pair of Nine West shoes. They were mine. I just did not wear them anymore, so decided to sell them. I think I had only worn them maybe once or twice. These were black nude lace peep toe pumps, and they had really pretty velour heels. I don't remember how much I paid for them. I think I got them somewhere like Marshall's, but they sold for $27.98 on offer to buyer. Next up was a Logitech USB headset with a volume control chat. This came out of a box of camera equipment, and I had purchased the box as a bulk buy. I think I had paid like $10 for the box. And then I had broken down our per item cost from each item out of that box at just 22 cents. So that was a really good buy. These did take a long time to sell though, and they did eventually sell for our asking price of $18.99. So worth the wait because we made a lot of good profit on that. At this time, I'd like to pause for a moment and ask you, if you're enjoying this video, to please take a minute to subscribe and hit that like button. It doesn't cost you anything and really helps out our channel. It's the best thing that you can do to support us and help us to continue to bring content to you guys. All right, next up was a vintage 2000 All-Star Baseball pinback for the Atlanta Braves. This we got at an estate sale. I did a bulk buy of baseball pins, and I had broken down my per pin cost at $2.35. We have definitely made our money back on that buy. This particular pin did not sell for very much. It didn't have the back with it or anything like that. So it only sold for $7.98 on offer to buyer, but we have made our money back on that purchase as a whole. So the per item cost of goods doesn't matter so much on this one. Next up was a girls Lily Pulitzer blue and yellow sailboats terry cloth romper. You could probably use it as like a swimsuit cover up. It was really cute. We got this at a garage sale for $1 and it sold for $22.38 on offer to buyer. Next up was a metal Las Vegas souvenir skeleton key keychain. We got this out of a storage unit that we purchased. We paid 28 cents for each of the items from that unit. I think this came from the unit that we paid $75 for. And this keychain sold for $10.99. Next up was another item that we got from a different storage unit. It was a storage unit that we had only paid $30 for, and our per listing cost out of that unit was just 24 cents. This was a 5-piece lot of toddler boys 3T clothing, and it sold for $15 even on best offer. Next up was a vintage 1980 Fetters Global Odyssey Rabat Sydney Nairobi Hilton travel bag. So this was like a flight attendant type bag, and these are very collectible. If you ever see these, definitely worth picking up for the right price. We got several of these at a garage sale for $1 a piece, and I think this is the last one that sold. This one sold for $39.98 on offer to buyer. We got positive feedback on it. Some of the other ones that we had picked up at that same garage sale sold for like $75, I think. So some of those bags are worth a lot. And some of our bags were damaged. One of the zippers was broken that still sold. Those are definitely collectible and worth picking up. Next up was a 2004 Hasbro Generation 3 My Little Pony Sunshower figure. This belonged to my daughter, and I don't remember what our cost was, but we sold it for $9.58 on offer to buyer. Next up was a vintage Miss Eileen brand iridescent ivory raffia hat. It had a union tag in it. We got this at a garage sale for $1.25 and it sold for $20 even on best offer. Next up was a vintage Texaco Atlanta Summer Olympics 1996 lapel pin. We found this in the Goodwill bins. We paid 61 cents for it that day, and it sold for our full asking price of $9.99. Next up was a 1957 Botany 500 men's charcoal wool-lined car coat. It was in really pristine condition, a very nice vintage coat. We got this at an estate sale for $7, and this coat sold for $58.38 on offer to buyer. Next up was one of the Build-A-Bear Workshop outfits. This one was a 3-piece superhero outfit. It did have some significant damage to it. There was a lot of wear on the screen print on the bodysuit, and then a big hole along one of the seams that could be repaired on a sewing machine. So that's why we decided to still list it, but a big hole in one of the seam lines on the bodysuit as well. So we did disclose all that. You'll see in our title where it says read, and we sold it at a very deeply discounted rate compared to some of the other ones listed. We paid $1 for this, and it sold for $10.38 on offer to buyer. Next up was a 1995 Score Platinum Complete Team set of the Philadelphia Phillies baseball cards. This was part of my husband's personal collection, and we sold it for $10.99, which was our full asking price. Next up was a Ralph Lauren Sport women's red knit long sleeve t-shirt. It had the embroidered pony on it, which we always try to include in the title if it has that, because that will help it sell. This we got at a thrift store for $1.62, and it sold for $15.18 on offer to buyer. We got positive feedback on that. Next up was a vintage American thread company, Dawn Knitting Worsted Wool number 4301 yarn. We got this out of the Goodwill bins. We paid just 67 cents for it, and it sold for our full asking price of $13.99. We did get positive feedback on it. The feedback commented on how surprised they were that they were able to find the exact yarn that they were looking for from the same dye lot, even though it was vintage. So that's the kind of thing that eBay is so perfect for, and I love getting feedback like that. Next up was a vintage lot of 8 Aunt Martha's and Colonial quilt patterns, designs, guides, and booklets. We got all of these at an estate sale. We paid $5 in total for all of them, and they sold very quickly for our full asking price of $37.99. We did get positive feedback on that purchase. Next up was a set of 2 logo brands, red and white Arkansas Razorbacks stadium chairs. We found these at the Goodwill bins. We found one in one bin and one in another bin. They were both new with tags, but they had been bumping around in the bins for a long time, or they might have been used and they might have just left the tags on them. You never know. But they did have some wear, so we did not list them as new. We listed them as used and just stated that they still had the original tags on them, but that they had wear. We got these for $1.18 and sold them for a full asking price of $59.99. Next up was a 2021 Fort Worth Harley-Davidson women's black bejeweled small fitted t-shirt. We got this also in the Goodwill bins that same day that we got the Razorbacks stadium chairs. So we paid $1.18 for it, and it sold on offer to buyer for $18.38. Next up was a Macho Madness Randy Savage Reselling DVD 3-disc set. We got this out of one of the storage auctions that we purchased, and our cost was 24 cents, and it sold for $8.50. It was used. The outer packaging was kind of beat up, but the discs looked like they had never been used. We did get positive feedback on that. Next up was a Doctor Who Van Gogh Exploding TARDIS ceramic coffee mug. We got this at an estate sale. We paid $1.08 for it, and it sold on offer to buyer for $15.18. Next up was a Caframo True North High Performance Electric Space Heater. This was a small space heater that we purchased it from our neighbor. He mentioned that he had used it in a boat that he had, so it was for a small area. We paid $15 for that, and this one sold very quickly for $55 even on best offer. Next up was one of the turntables from the B-Stock liquidation palette. We had paid $47.18 for each of the items from that palette, and this one sold for $187.99. So this one we made a lot of good profit on, but these turntables are moving so slowly. So even though I'm really glad to see this one go, we're just ready to get some of them out of there, and some of them we only have listed for like $55. So, you know, the turntables, we just want to see them go. So if anybody's interested in a turntable, we're ready to make some deals. All right, and next up, I'm going to go over all of the collectible cards that sold from my husband's personal collection. This week, we did not sell any high-value cards, meaning cards valued at $10 or over. We only sold low-value cards. But we did sell quite a few. We sold 5 cards this week for a total dollar amount of $15.85. So let's go over the totals. This week, we had 41 sales in total, for an average sale price of $39.48. Very pleased with that number. That's a great number, especially considering that we didn't sell any high value cards. Because sometimes I feel like when we have a really good week and our average sale price is up high, it's because we've sold some of my husband's more valuable cards from his personal collection. But this week that number is high and we did not even have any high value cards. So super excited about that. Our sales totaled $1,618.78 for a net profit of $962.39. So very pleased with this week. This was a really great week for us, and we're still seeing really good sales. We have not seen much of a summer slowdown quite yet, but we have not been listing as diligently as we had been at the time that this week was going on. So hopefully that doesn't come back to bite us. We've just been really busy. We've had a lot of stuff going on in our personal life, so we'll just have to wait and see how that affects our sales. All right, well, thank you so much for tuning in to this video, and if you enjoyed it, please make sure to hit that like button. Please make sure that you're subscribed. Those are the 2 things that help us out the most. We also have lots of links in our description box below of other ways that you can support us, so we would appreciate it if you guys would check that out, and we will catch you guys on the flip side.